The sculptor of a house who won this year's Turner Art Prize has watched her work being demolished. The piece, which has been variously described as a post-war masterpiece and a lumpish eyesore, was created by injecting an empty Edwardian terraced house with concrete and then knocking the walls down.
Many local people thought it ugly and a waste of money. The man who lived in the house for 50 years wasn't sorry to see it go. He knows what kind of art he likes, and it isn't this.
Most of the people around here that I've spoken to, and if you see anybody go on a bus or if you run a bus, they say it's a waste of money, it's just a load of concrete to them.
If the purpose of modern art is to provoke us to think twice about the world we live in, then Rachel Whiteread's house has been a triumphant success.
The artist exploring the new is always liable to derision and hostility. The new is always shocking. The 1993 winner of the Turner Prize is Rachel Whiteread.
In 1993, the British sculptor Rachel Whiteread became the first woman to win the Turner Prize. This perceptive, understated artist is celebrated across the world. But Rachel Whiteread has always had a knack for courting controversy. On the same night that she received the £20,000 Turner Prize, she was forced out onto the steps of the Tate to accept a £40,000 protest prize for the worst artist in the world.
I mean, it's quite something that the most significant work you make is about to be demolished, that you're the best artist in Britain and the worst on the same day. And you're better rewarded for being the worst than you are for being the best.
Yeah.
So no wonder I'm surprised you're still with us.
I would quite like to ask you a question. Did you have something against Rachel Whiteread's kind of work?
Absolutely not.
Because she's actually, I actually saw her last week. I mean, she's a really good artist and nice person. Because I think people really, actually, everybody quite liked all the adverts. The kind of beginning of the whole thing was quite interesting, and nobody quite knew what was going on. I mean, you know, generally in the art world and everybody. But I think somehow it left a kind of, I don't know why, but it left a sort of slightly nasty taste in people's mouths at the time of the Turner Prize. But maybe that was the kind of
I think partly because she was a woman, and it's kind of a sexist element there that is like poor little Rachel Whiteread, you know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't us. We hadn't decided. It was people voting had decided. They voted for her. That's why she won. Initially, the votes were coming in for the geezer who did the rice thing, you know, the Vietnamese guy, or Cambodian guy. Because that was getting the kind of paper, the coverage in the broadsheets that cover arts. So that's what people were reacting to. They were voting for him to be the worst. But leading up, once you got the house thing out, everybody was voting her as the worst. So that was the reason why she got it.
Now, I am interested in the sort of public reception to contemporary art, and it's interesting if you go into the Tate, there's absolutely nothing about the famous bricks by Carl Andre from '76. If you read up about, if you go and look the bricks in the catalogue of the Tate, and you'd think it might say something about the biggest controversy ever since the war in Britain, which is about these bricks on the ground. There's nothing said about it, and yet the understanding of that artwork is entirely understood by most people within that controversy. And it's a little bit the same with what you did. I think there will always be an association that you kind of grabbed onto it a bit. That said, I think House by Rachel Whiteread is one of the great works of the 90s.
Fair enough,
So,
I mean, it was good, yeah, we were into it.
But the public disagree with you, Andrew. I mean,
No,
that's
they
the
don't
problem,
actually.
isn't it?
I totally agree with that.
Well, the K Foundation did a poll, and the public.
Yeah, but those
the
people who
public
voted,
disagreed.
they don't study art. They don't know. It was just.
What's that? I mean, what's that got to do with Andrew's spending public money at the Scottish Arts Council? It doesn't matter what the middle classes think about art, it's what the public think.
No, they don't know.
It's got nothing to do with them.
The public don't know about art.
They're not interested in it.
But their money's being spent by people like Andrew on these highfalutin projects.
If the public don't know about art, why did you put across a poll saying people vote for the worst piece of art?
No, it wasn't a mistake.
Oh, I thought it was.
Oh,
The K Foundation has just fallen out on it.
No, look, contemporary art, its whole purpose of being is to be at the forefront. You know, you've got to be at the forefront. So the public ain't going to understand that. Why should the public understand? If the public understood it, it wouldn't be working. The public only ever react to contemporary art when it is like the bricks or something. You know, they can only understand it on some sort of ludicrous level. You know, or I can't remember her name now, Sleeping in the Glass Tank. They can only ever get into it on the shock horror thing. They can never actually really understand it.
So was your piece intended to shock and horror?
No.
No.
No, we just did what we did because that's what we wanted to do.
Well, the burning thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
We didn't want it to be shocking because the shockingness would spoil it.
It wasn't, as some people suggested, a case of making a house by pouring concrete down the chimney or squirting it through the letterbox. There are enormous technical challenges in a work of that scale.
The method they adopted was at the time being developed to build the Channel Tunnel. They constructed the inner walls using a high-velocity concrete spray.
It was beyond a challenge. No one's ever done anything like that. And she was really young then. She was only about 29 when she took that project on. I really had utmost respect for her.
It had taken 3 months, but gradually the structure of the original house was peeled away. On the 24th of October 1993, the sculpture was revealed.
You saw this lone, mid-terraced house. The entire terrace had gone, and there was a kind of monument, which was also a kind of cast of the place that had been there. You imagine the life that went on. The shouts from upper windows for the kids to come in, time for their tea. It attracted crowds. People flew into London, particularly to see it. They would get in a cab at Heathrow and say, "Take me to house," and the cabbies would know exactly where it was. But at the same time, there was a sort of animosity towards it. The fact that something that was treated with such respect could have been made really on the back of an ordinary East End working class house struck some people as insulting in some way. They felt that, like a lot of contemporary art, it was pulling the wool over their eyes.
I do like sculpture that looks like what it's supposed to be. I quite like this behind us. I certainly don't think it would be improved by having it inside out.
She told me that she'd sat at the end of the road in a car with a newspaper in front of her face with a couple of holes poked in it so she could watch anonymously what was happening. And I think she was pleased, obviously, but aghast and perhaps a bit terrified of the kinds of attention it had.
Rachel had been nominated for the Turner Prize that year, but the whole thing would come to a head on the very day of the awards ceremony.
23rd of November 1993. Tell me about it.
Oh, gosh, yes, what a day that was. Yeah, 23rd of November. Yeah, so I woke up in the morning, didn't really think about much except, oh, it's the Turner Prize tonight, wonder what'll happen. And the sort of phone rings and it's this KLF bunch who decide that I've been voted the worst artist in the world.
In the weeks leading up to this, a group calling themselves the K Foundation had taken out a full-page advert in The Sun, asking readers to vote for the worst artist in the world.
Bear in mind, the Turner Prize was £20,000. They were giving me £40,000. And if I refused to receive it, they were going to burn it.
They were going to burn
the money, and it was going to be my fault. And I was like, you fuckers, you know. I decided after a lot of umming and ahhing that I would take the money, but I would give it away. All of this was going on. I was beginning to get a bit of a nervous wreck.
The 1993 winner of the Turner Prize, Rachel Whiteread.
I had to then go and deal with the fucking KLF. I'm sorry, we might need to...
You're allowed to. No, I think it's perfectly appropriate. It's after. So.
And it was just like, oh my God, I just felt like my head was going to explode.
This is Rachel's award. Can we thank Rachel?
And on that same night, when she won the Turner Prize, a vote was taking place to decide whether House would be granted a stay of execution to spare it from planned demolition.
I mean, making House was really stressful, and then everything that went with it was very stressful. And the fact that I never really saw it in a way, because I made it and then there was this whole circus around it and then we pulled it down. I was there for the demolition.
How was it?
Quite heartbreaking, really. Yeah, heartbreaking. I was quite unwell for a few months afterwards.
I think it undoubtedly destabilised her, while also catapulting her forward in terms of an international reputation and so on.
I know at the end of the KLF, I was mentally in a pretty unstable area. You know, it completely and utterly taken over my life. And because I was doing, between the pair of us, we were doing everything. And it completely burned me out.
Let's just go back to 1995 when the Turner Prize was awarded. The KLF became the K Foundation. You set yourselves up as an art foundation to award £40,000 for the worst artist of the year. And you presented £40,000 nailed to a wooden board in cash to Rachel Whiteread, who coincidentally was the winner of the Turner Prize on the same evening. Why?
In fish and chip shops, they used to get this kind of wallpaper that was, I imagined it was a Canadian mountain scene. So you'd have the mountain covered in trees, and then there'd be the lake, and reflected in the lake was the mountain. And I imagined that our K Foundation award was that reflection in that lake. I always had that picture in my head of that scene in the fish and chip shop, and we were painting that picture. We didn't elect Rachel Whiteread to be the winner. We put out a vote, and because her house was attracting so much media attention, the votes that came in were all going for that. We let her know that morning that she had won our £40,000, and we told her, we will burn this £40,000 if you don't accept it. So she felt she was forced to accept the £40,000.
Which she did reluctantly.
Then, at that point, she didn't know she had won the Turner Prize. Obviously, that evening, she found out she'd won the Turner Prize and our prize.
So you're saying that was a coincidence? That was a genuine vote that came into your art foundation?
It was a genuine vote. I mean...
You didn't just wait for the result of the Turner Prize, find out that Rachel Whiteread had won, and then decide that she was the worst artist?
Not at all. But it was obvious that she was going to win ours just from the amount of media attention and the amount of people going, well, that's complete rubbish, which isn't what I particularly think. And yes, we wanted it to have a media existence, but it wasn't about trying to grab the front pages of tabloids or even the broadsheets.
Do you think money's the root of all evil?
No, not at all. We've got nothing against money.
Did you set up a foundation, was it an art foundation for struggling artists? They could apply for money and you'd help them out? So
that was the original idea. But luckily we managed to get out of that. Yeah, decided not to do that. We realised that struggling artists are meant to struggle, that's the whole point.
Right, and they don't deserve any money, basically.
No, not from us anyway. Not our money.
So when you tried to give the money to Rachel Whiteread when she won the Turner Prize the year before last, she actually refused the money, didn't she? She offered her £40,000 and she turned around and said she didn't want her.
Well, we weren't giving it to her because she was a struggling artist. We gave it to her because people had voted her as the worst artist in the country that year.
Did you not like her exhibit house?
No, it's nothing to do with us. That's what people voted. I think I quite like it.
No, I mean, we've got nothing against her or her work.
Right.
And so you tried to give her the money, and then what happened?
Well, she'd that day, you know, she'd said, or her sort of manager or whatever said, we mustn't use her bank account details, and we mustn't put the money if she was the winner. So the day of the thing, we phoned her up and said, look, you have won, and if you don't accept it, we're going to burn it.
Did you set up a foundation, was it an art foundation for struggling artists? They could apply for money and you'd help them out? Paintbrush